You signed the papers on a Friday. On Monday morning, you drove to the same desk and asked another man's permission to spend money in the company you built. After selling my business the first time, I lived that Monday for 2 full years. A handful of lines in the paperwork decided it, and most owners never read them until the papers are already signed. So before you sign anything, ask your lawyer one simple question. How much of my price do I only receive if I keep showing up to work? On a $6 million deal, that answer can easily be a 7-figure number. Most owners hear it for the first time after they've already agreed to sell. I've sold 5 companies of my own, and what happens after you sell your business is the part 1 wish someone had explained to me at the very start. Here's why this happens. When a buyer pays you for your company, a big part of what they're paying for still lives in your head. They're buying the customer relationships, the supplier arrangements, and the small daily judgments that make the numbers work. None of that arrives in the handover boxes. So almost every serious buyer will ask you to stay on after the sale, sometimes for 6 months, often for a year or 2. An owner I worked with in Ohio sold his machine shop and assumed he'd be fishing within a month. His buyer wouldn't close without a 2-year commitment, and the deal nearly died over it. In my experience, the bigger the price, the longer they want you in the building. That stay arrives in one of 2 shapes. The first shape is an employment agreement. You become a salaried employee of the buyer, with a boss, a job description, and a performance review, inside the company that still has your name on the wall. The second shape is a consulting agreement. You stay off the payroll, you bill for an agreed number of days each month, and you keep more control of your calendar. You might hear the word consulting and relax. Read the schedule of services first, because I've seen a consulting deal that asks for 4 days a week for 18 months. That's a job with a nicer title. There's a practical difference in your pocket too. As an employee, you're on the buyer's payroll with a boss and their benefits. As a consultant, you invoice them each month and handle your own taxes, so your daily rate should be higher to cover it. Whichever shape lands on your desk, the length, the duties, and the pay are all negotiable. The moment to negotiate them is before the letter of intent is signed, while you still have something the buyer wants. I want to be honest about the part nobody puts a number on. For 20 or 30 years, every decision in that building ended with you. After the sale, you'll sit in meetings where other people decide things about your customers and your staff, and your opinion is now advice. Some owners handle that fine. Most of the owners I know found it harder than the negotiation itself. In my own 2 years, I helped the buyer build a stronger company than the one I sold him, and I sat on my hands through every decision I'd have made differently. No clause in the agreement fixes that feeling. The clauses do decide how long you have to live with it, and that's where you have real power before you sign. Now for the money, because your stay is usually wired straight into your price. If part of your deal is paid on future performance, the buyer expects you there to hit those targets, and leaving early can cost you that money. If part of your price is deferred, some agreements shrink it or cancel it if you walk out before the agreed date. I've watched an owner give up a final payment worth more than his house because he resigned 4 months before the finish line. So take the headline number, subtract everything that depends on your attendance, and look hard at what's left. That smaller number is the real price, and the gap between the two is the salary of a job you didn't know you were taking. You negotiate all of this before you sign, and my advice is to treat the stay with the same seriousness as the headline number. 5 things belong in writing. The first is the length of your stay with an end date that doesn't move. The second is your actual role, described in one clear paragraph, so nobody can quietly hand you a sales quota in year 2. The third is your pay for that role, kept separate from the sale price, because working for free feels very different in month 14. The fourth is how many days each month the buyer can ask of you. The fifth is what happens to your remaining money if they let you go early through no fault of your own. That fifth line is the one most owners never think to ask for, and it's the one that protects all the others. So here's what I want you to carry out of this video. The day you sell is the start of your exit. The real end usually comes a year or 2 later, on a date somebody wrote into a schedule. Know exactly how long you're staying, know what you're being paid to stay, and make sure the money you were promised doesn't depend on somebody else's patience. I put a whole chapter on the transition period in my free guide, the Exit Readiness Playbook. It walks through the questions to ask before you sign a letter of intent and the wording that keeps your final payment safe when the new owners change their plans. The link is right below this video. You built something worth buying, and that's rare. I'll see you in the next one.